this week's video. This week is my coming out of the broom closet video. I see that a lot with a lot of pagan YouTubers and witchy YouTubers and whatnot, and I figured I'd finally do mine. So I'm actually going to do mine a little different. I'm going to tell you my story and then a little bit about my family history and why it really wasn't necessary for me to technically come out of the broom closet. So from the time I can remember, I was talking to ghosts. I would have dreams and then things would happen. I was able to pick up on things that other people couldn't. I was very observant. I was very empathetic from a young age. I could feel everybody else's energy around me, which is part of the reason why all my life I was kind of introverted. It's not that I wanted to be, it's just that being around too many people was just way too much for me. And I always wanted to like help people, and I knew when things were wrong, and I always had this just sixth sense, I guess you could say. I did have to go to Catholic school from preschool until 6th grade. My great-grandmother, which I'll get into my family history, wanted all of us to go to Catholic school. When she died, we were free to do whatever. In 6th grade, I was even being called a witch and a goth and all this kind of stuff. At my Catholic school, I wore like big, like old Victorian crosses, and I didn't always, but I wore black often. I would do weird things that I couldn't explain that will make sense when I talk about my family history and my bloodline that I found out more about, and why pipes have burst when I was angry or things of that nature. But anyway, around 6th grade, I started to kind of look into various occult things. I mean, when I was in 4th grade and The Craft came out, that was my favorite movie, and it was partly because I felt a connection, as well as Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Bewitched were all my favorite shows when I was really little. And I know that those are totally fake and totally not how real witchcraft is, though The Craft, they did have an actual high priestess on set, etc., whatever. And, you know, she was an actual, well, I'm not going to get into, this isn't about The Craft, okay. But anyways, I always felt like a connection to those things, and it made me feel a little more normal, just because of natural things that I felt. And my mom never thought I was crazy when I would tell her this stuff, even though I grew up thinking my mom was Catholic until I was a teenager. I later learned that my mother and my great-grandmother would have arguments because my mom would talk about psychic stuff and all that kind of stuff. But my great-grandmother would tell me about how she would see ghosts and how she could think of things and then things would happen. So I think she was trying to kind of like later in life ignore her gifts. I think we all have them, and I'll get into that in my family history. So it was around 6th grade where I actually started researching the occult, since like I'm at a Catholic school and people are calling me a witch anyways, and I'm doing all this weird stuff that I can't really explain. I like was already talking to spirits. I would like summon them. I would have dreams that would come true. I'd have dreams about past lives in which I was from a very young age, from that were about me. I would think around Victorian age or a little before that, where people would have me come and I would capture spirits that were dark or were bothering them into mirrors, and then I would break the mirrors, and I think that gave me some bad like karma in this life, just because that really doesn't release them, that just kind of, yeah. But anyways, I do know also in the dreams that I was doing like dark stuff, so whatever. I also, okay, no, that stuff's for a different video. This is my witch story. So yeah, I started researching. In 7th grade, we got our first computer. Wow, I probably sound hella old right now. No, we were late to getting computers and internet, by the way. Most people already did. Okay, this is 1999. So in 7th grade, I actually had a binder that I would print off all this, like, stuff on various types of Wicca, the basics of Wicca, like, the history of it, and then, I really got into Wiccan. So around the age of 13, 14 is when I became full-fledged Wiccan. And that's where it stayed for a very, very long time. However, because I was a teenager, I was risky and I didn't always follow the Wiccan read or any of that. Sometimes I would sometimes dabble into things that I probably shouldn't have, being that I was full-fledged into Wicca and there are rules. My mom knew. At first she tried to kind of like hide it and I didn't understand why. But when I was about 15, my mother decided that she was going to be open and honest about herself and her gifts. And she started learning like Reiki. She got into like New Age, more closer to New Age, but she's like pagan, but New Age, but she's not like New Age. I don't know how to explain my mom. She's a witch, but she just won't call it that. Anyway, so she became she's now an animal medium, so she talks to people's animals as well as their dead ones. She can do it for people, but she prefers not to, because she likes animals more than she likes people. She is a Reiki master now, and she started like being open about like her gifts, and so then I started feeling more comfortable being able to talk to her about what I was doing, and she would buy me candles, and like she's like really good friends with the owner of the local crystal store here, and so crystals are everywhere all over my mom's house, and so as a teenager that just became the norm. So once my great grandmother died, it just was full-fledged. Everybody could just be what they felt, and throughout the next 15 years, I find out more about the rest of my family that's currently alive, as well as my heritage. So here I am. I'm full-fledged Wiccan. At first, I'm like the Gardenian, like the old school, like original, like when Wicca first became, big in like Britain. I was very into that. But I was solitary throughout this whole time. So I always read like the solitary books by like Buckland and Cunningham and all that. Then I started to diverge into fairy Wicca and kind of focus on that towards my late teens, early 20s. Then I started getting into Druid stuff. And then I kind of just combined the Wicca and the Druid and went into like the Druid craft idea. I did study Thelmaic stuff, Crowley stuff for a long time, and I started to bring that in my mid-teens, and that's when I started to not follow all the Wiccan rules, even though Crowley also has a very similar rule. So anybody who thinks that Crowley's stuff is all dark, it's not true, because he also says not to harm, and all that, but I was very nature-based. I was very political and social justice-oriented and very environmental and feminist. It started with the environment and feminism. So I think that really helped me be able to feel comfortable with my strain of spirituality at that age. My dad's side of the family didn't really fully accept it. My grandmother, who is now currently dead, she was very Christian. She did not dig really anything about me, because I was like full-fledged goth. I was an anarchist, well I still am, and I was a Wiccan, and that was just not sitting right with her. And I guess I was the bad kid in the family, though I may look like it. I honestly was actually the most goody good, I guess. I mean, I'm not pure and innocent. I wasn't ever straight edge. I wasn't anything like that. But I just kind of I stayed out of trouble, I guess is the best way you could say. Yeah. But you know, older generations kind of just judge by people's looks, and they don't understand the witchcraft thing. So then in my mid-20s, I kind of put my spirituality aside, though everybody knew what I believed. I still had like the crystals and the herbs and all that kind of stuff around, and once in a while I would practice and do circles and do rituals and all that. But I was so entrenched into the social justice movement that I kind of left my Wiccan practices aside. Then at 26, I delved straight back into it due to my partner kind of reminding me of who I am and all of that. And I couldn't like escape my gifts. Things were happening around me that I just could not stop. And that's where I'm talking about like the things bursting and things of that nature. And I'd see shadow people, and ghosts would still be communicating with me, and I'd still be having prophetic dreams. And when my dog died, my dog was coming to me. Like, I couldn't escape my natural, gifts. I mean, agnostic atheist people that I was hanging out with were the ones that saw these things happen, and they were like, did you do something? So I couldn't run. But at that time, I didn't feel comfortable following a set of rules. I also felt like I was, through meditation and through shadow work and through like some sort of self journey, I started realizing that there was something in me. I already knew I was Navajo on my dad's side and Crow. I already knew that, and I already knew that there was that blood in me, and I'm gonna get into that in a minute here. But there was just something in me that I could not deny, and I started reading about the gypsy stuff. I started just expanding. I went deeper into the old witchcraft stuff and the history of it, and hedge witch, and more into the herbal stuff, and reading about like Lilith and the dark goddesses and all that kind of stuff. And so that brings me to now. I wouldn't call myself Wiccan. I'm eclectic. Some could say I'm a hedge witch, a traditionalist, but I'm not really a traditionalist either. I'm just an eclectic pagan. I'm an eclectic witch. I mix a lot of it together, but I do use the core value of the Wiccan Rede and all that still. However, I don't follow the set of rules that was created by a man. It's really hard to explain. Sometime I'll explain my full witch, pagan, whatever belief system. But I do work with, like, obviously herbs and candles and oils, and make spells and do rituals and do healings. I'm a second level Reiki. I have a natural healing gift that I don't need to practice. I can just do it. I have a lot of gifts, a lot of things, but that will be for a different video. So that is kind of my journey. I'm now what most people would just call like a hedge witch or a green witch. Yeah. I do include a lot of embracing your feminine power as well. I think that's very important, especially when you look at the old traditions of everything. And I do celebrate all the Sabbats. So there's that too. Now, as for my family history, like I said, already knew all my life about my dad's side. So I'll run through my dad's side. So my dad's side is Native American and has some Celtic, Irish, whatever, and French Canadian mixed into it. However, his family went Baptist later on, my dad's. But my dad, from the poet, he's dead, but I think he was an empath, and he couldn't handle a lot of things, from what my mom told me, and he got into drugs and ended up dying. But from his poetry and his like other works and writings and art that I've seen, it seems he was really trying to get really in touch with that native side again. My aunt on that side also is like that. She still calls herself a Christian, but she's aware of the natural, like, Navajo thing. She's very into her Navajo heritage. My uncle on that side, from my knowledge, is a spiritualist, just spiritual, New Age, whatever you want to call it. And my younger cousin, I believe, he is really into our Navajo heritage, and I'm pretty sure he's just very spiritual and interested in this stuff. He doesn't follow anything, but yeah. And I think my cousin Casey is just an atheist. My brother, I don't know. My sisters, these are half-brother and half-sisters. They're raised by different moms. My half-sister is a redneck, completely detached from any of it. So my mom's side is where the really important stuff comes in. So whether they would deny it or accept it, every woman, my mom's we were a very matriarchal family. My great-grandmother pretty much ran all of us. She raised, obviously, my grandmother. She raised my mother and my aunt. She helped raise me and my cousin, Brandon, who's like a brother to me, more so than my actual siblings. And there was that. I already knew, yeah, it's Polish, but that's like saying you're American. So I did research, and I did find out about where they came from. So with that, part is Greek, and then like half of that is Greek, and then the other half is split between Scandinavian Jew and Roma Gypsy that went to Russia. The Greek side also, or went to Poland, but then the Scandinavian Jew, which I find so weird, Scandinavian Jew, and the Roma Gypsy both met up in Russia and then together moved to Poland. So that's my line. So that explains a lot of why, which I'll tell some of these stories, but when I'm upset and I stare at something or something happens and I can't control it, I have these natural gifts that I just can't control, and you know, some would just say, oh, you're an indigo child, oh, you're this or that, but it's a natural witch. My mother has various abilities. My aunt has various abilities. I recall a couple of years ago her freaking out, feeling sick, thinking she's having like a psychic attack. Though she does still call herself Catholic, she hasn't gone to church since my great-grandmother died. And when I had to put my hexed necklace, which is for a story time, in her backyard, because she had oak trees and willows and all that kind of stuff, she was really freaked out. But we all just have these natural abilities and these natural gifts. My grandmother is a little insane due to a lot of traumas and that she never got taken care of, and that's a whole different thing. But I do think, though she is Catholic, she does have some gifts, and I could always feel it. And I think that a lot of the things that she says is her going to different dimensions while she's asleep. And then, because a lot of it, she would tell me, oh, I dreamt that this happened. Later on, she'd say it was a dream or something. And I think she'd go to different dimensions. And that's another thing, is that we all kind of, on my mom's side, do that. Like time traveling or moving to different, astral traveling and all that kind of stuff in our dreams. And like I said, my great-grandmother, though she was the one that I believe that converted to Catholicism. But anyway, she still had she had gifts, and she was in denial about it. And I guess my mom says that her and those two would argue about that kind of stuff a lot. But I do remember my great-grandmother telling me about ghosts and stuff that she saw. And when she died, she was in my closet, and she talked to me, because we lived in her house. But basically what I'm saying is that on both sides there is this natural lineage. So there's the native on my dad's mixed with the Celtic, right? And then there is the gypsy on my mom's, as well as this weird, just natural, like, psychic abilities. And then, the Greek. So we know how the Greeks were a long time ago. So that kind of goes into, I think, why it wasn't a big surprise to my mother or my aunt or really anybody. My cousin on my mom's side also has abilities. He's the only male, but he doesn't really talk about it, but I know he has them. And there are stories that I'll share in various videos in the future, my paranormal videos, of things that he and I both have experienced together. And while he was living at our house. And yeah, he would call himself probably spiritual or New Age or something of that nature. He's very much just about taking care of yourself and self-care and meditation and all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's my coming out of the broom closet story. It really wasn't a coming out. It was just accepted. Except for a little bit on my dad's side, not so much with my grandmother. But there's like a natural lineage in my family that I think has been denied for a few generations. I do think that a lot of what I did and what I saw and how open I was was never fearful of anything that I encountered or what I believed. And I think that helped my mom kind of come out herself. So with that, if you haven't yet, please subscribe and press the little bell notification button, like, share, all that good stuff, and comment about your family history, or if there's any lineage, or how it was for you coming out. Like, was it more difficult? Are you still, like, dealing with it in your own, like, keeping it to yourself in fear of how your family might respond? I know not a lot of people are as lucky as I was with it. So, yeah. Check out my shop for custom orders and tarot readings. You can go to my Facebook page or email me. All that's below. And the big giveaway is still going on, so you can enter that as well. And I love you all, and have a great week. Next time I will be talking about an intro to shadow work, because I mention it a lot. So, and with me also being a counseling master's student, it kind of overlaps, so that'll be fun. And I hope you all are having a great holiday season. Yule's coming up and all that. So Love you. I'm going to stop rambling. Ramble. All right. Bless you.